So I started this nursery program years ago, mostly out of frustration of watching all the corals dying. The reefs were just crumbling and dying in front of my eyes. I was making a living tropical fish collecting, and tropical fish don't have to have live coral, but they do a lot better. There's a lot more of them when there's live coral around, and I realized my livelihood was at stake. I decided that I was going to see if I could do something about it, and I tried a variety of things. I worked with sea urchins, different things like that, and then this idea of growing corals and putting them back on the reef evolved out of a 4-H project with my daughters. And once we started growing corals to the size that they could go on the reef, I really had this thought, this passion, say, could we actually put them on the reef and would they live? And so I approached the sanctuary about it, the National Marine Sanctuary Program, and asked, hey, could I put these corals on the reef? And they said, well, that's really exciting, but nobody's ever come to us with that question before, and we don't have a way of letting you do it. So through a variety of different, maybe dealing with the right people, we found a way to put some corals on the reef, and that was kind of like the turning point of my whole career with corals. I went from trying to be a coral farmer to where I grow corals and sell them to the aquarium trade, to being a coral nursery manager, to being growing corals to put on the reef. And once I started growing corals to put them on the reef, I realized this is a whole lot more exciting than anything I've ever done. This is making a difference. This is so powerful. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about making a difference. One of the difficult things in the beginning was to try to convince people this would work. I had lots of people telling me, oh, you can't do that. That'll never work. You can never do it at a big enough scale. And I always thought, yes, I can. There's got to be a way to do it. We started looking at what aquarists were doing in aquariums. We realized, hey, they can grow corals in aquariums all day long. They take them to shows. They transport them across the country. Surely we could do the same thing underwater in the ocean to restore coral reefs. And so that's kind of what launched this whole coral nursery and restoration program. In the beginning, it was just my daughters and my family and I, my wife, and we were out there growing corals, and it was a lot of fun. And I started looking around, and our nursery started getting really big, and I thought, well, how do I take it to the next step? What do I do? And how do I get funding to do this? Because this is getting bigger than me. And so we started looking around. We realized, I either need to be with a university or with a government agency, or I need to form a nonprofit. And so we chose to go down the nonprofit route, actually formed the Coral Restoration Foundation in 2007. I had no really idea what a nonprofit was all about, but I knew that's the mechanism that I wanted to work through. That was the vehicle. And so we formed it. We got some advisors on our board. And over time, I learned more and more about how to run a nonprofit and what that's all about. But it was a key to doing that was finding the right board members to help me navigate the challenge was to find the right board members to help me navigate the ins and outs of running a nonprofit. And in the end, I really didn't want to run the nonprofit. I wanted to plant corals, and so we found people to run the business side of it and do the details like that. And I could focus on what I was really good at and what my passion was, which was growing corals and planting them on the reef and trying to teach others how to do the same thing. So I ran the Coral Restoration Foundation for 10 years. I learned a lot. We grew it from a zero budget to well over $1 million a year, probably more closer to $2 million a year when I left. But I guess felt like there was things I needed to do and I wanted to do, and it was becoming too difficult to do them with all the bureaucracy of a larger organization. I just felt like I needed to have some freedom to innovate and to make mistakes and to be who I was. And so I retired from the Coral Restoration Foundation and started just a consulting company. I called it Reef Renewal. And people started coming to me and they said, hey, we want to be a part of, what are you doing now? We want to be a part of it. And so I eventually turned over the Reef Renewal brand to a group of friends who wanted to do an international brand of Reef Renewal. And so that was kind of the start of this whole international business that I have now. But part of the branding of Reef Renewal also evolved into having members or network members of our international organization, and so we started encouraging people that wanted to be a part of our network to join the Reef Renewal Network, and we could help train them, we could help them grow their business, we could provide mentorship, all kinds of tools that would help them be successful at it. So after I'd left the Coral Restoration Foundation, I was doing a lot of consulting work, and I started diving in the Keys with a different eye. When I was at Coral Restoration Foundation, we would dive the nursery, we would dive our restoration sites, and we were really focused, a lot of hard work on doing what we needed to get done. And so my vision, my experience in the Keys had dropped, and I wasn't understanding what was really going on. After I left and started my own company, then I started diving at leisure. I started just going around, looking around in the Florida Keys, and I realized, wow, between the hurricane and disease, the corals in the Keys are in a lot of trouble. And I thought, I've got to do something. I've got to get back in the game in the Keys. In the spring of probably 2018 or 19, I contacted Mike, who had been with me at the Coral Restoration Foundation, and I knew Mike was interested in doing work at Lou Key. I said, Mike, are you still interested in doing a nursery? Because I want to get back in it. I want to set up a new nursery program. I want to have one at Lou Key. Are you interested? And I barely said the words, and he said yes. So Mike and I decided, yes, we do want to get back in the nursery business. My expertise, my passion is in the water. Mike likes to be in the water, but he's also really good at business and organizing and fundraising and the stuff that I really don't particularly like to do. And so we said, we got a great team here. You do that, I'll do this, we'll both be happy. So, and we also divided up the responsibilities of Mike's going to take care of the Lou Key nursery, and I would take care of the Upper Keys nursery. We eventually added a Middle Keys nursery because we saw a great need there, and we found a great team of partners with some friends that I'd known for a long, long time. Ben Daughtry, who runs Dynasty Marine and also Aquarium Encounters, and we just thought this would be the perfect partner. Ben and I had talked many times over the years about getting them involved, and they were very interested. So we worked with Florida Fish and Wildlife to set up a nursery, and now the Middle Keys nursery is being run by Ocean Encounters and Dynasty Marine.